What's up? Okay, I've written a book. Confidence, sensuality. Hey, turn up. Okay. So I think that you guys should go get it. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play Books, iTunes Books, iBooks. I don't know what it's called, but y'all will figure it out. I am going to read an excerpt. I'm going to read from the prologue to the end of chapter 1, and hopefully by the end you are intrigued. Ooh, bars. You are intrigued to go purchase your own. I'm excited. Okay. Let us begin. All right. Melissa, honey, she can't be serious right now. But a girl can only hope. She does it again. Melissa! My name echoes through the cathedral ceilings and down the long hallways that make up our home. Come down here. I need a little help. The panic in her voice makes her French accent sound even more French. And that should alarm the average 14-year-old girl. But I am not average. Nor is my mother. And since we're at it, neither is my father. For starters, tutors for 3 different languages, French, Italian, and Spanish, frequented our homes since I was 5. I have learned the art of fencing, for crying out loud. And I have an English tutor for, get this, pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary expansion. We can thank my over-the-top mother for this. I realize I'm being repetitive, but we, my friends, are not an average family. It'll do you some good to remember this. Melissa, I'm tired, please. Melissa thinks to herself now, yes, mother, so am I. I roll my eyes because her theatrics have always been her strongest trait, not her best, but definitely her strongest. Melissa. That time my name held no panic, all business. I always found it interesting how my mother could switch into another emotion with pristine ease, without a trace of evidence of the previous emotion. So I answer, hoping that I at least sound tired. I mean, I don't sleep, and somehow instead of my eyelids getting heavier as the night carries on, they remain wired, almost as if they're preparing for the sun to rise. So here I am at 3 a.m., wide awake, answering, yes, mother. Come here. Yeah, she's definitely done panicking. What on earth could possibly be so important that I have to be removed from my queen-size bed at 3 o'clock in the freaking morning? I drag myself out of bed, nearly sliding off because of my satin sheets, and shuffle to the hall to follow the remnants of her persistent echoes. The closer to the spiral stairs I get, the easier it is to hear our dog, Max, panting. Except Max is snoring. Therefore, Max is not panting. Someone, as in a human, is panting? I'm thinking maybe it's because of the house's ability to make everything sound so pregnant with volume. Maybe that's why it sounds like panting. I slowly descend the first set of stairs toward said panting. And of course, the closer I get, the more noises my ears discover. Was that something being dragged? I've made it to the 2nd floor now. It's a 3-story house. And I hear my mother say, pass me the tape. She's likely speaking to my cousin, Ramona. She's also 14. My mother likes to call us fraternal twins, and every time she does, I roll my eyes. My cousin's parents, who also happen to be my aunt and uncle on my dad's side, died in a tragic accident when she was 4. So she's been with us ever since. She too has endured the abundance of tutor glee. I finally make it to the source of the array of sounds, the kitchen. My ever so helpful cousin is running the duct tape over to my mother, who is currently hovering over my very still father. My father is incredibly still. My father is not moving. My English tutor always stressed the need to be specific in my writing. She would say, and if you feel that you have difficulty with that, start by being more specific with your speaking. Add details, be more descriptive, and read more challenging books to enhance your vocabulary. Let it become second nature. I do like English. There is no steady rise and fall of his chest, no color or moisture to his originally voluminous reddish-brown lips. His smooth, dark brown skin that contributed to my mocha complexion is now a dark gray hue. My mother, sporting red cheeks, looks up at me. Her usual blonde straightened bob is pulled into a short ponytail at the base of her skull. Her bright blue eyes are rimmed with red, and her hairline is decorated with beads of sweat. I gaze over at my cousin, and she is simply following my mother's line of vision. They're looking at me. I, too, am very still, since I refuse to add any more clamor to the symphony taking place in this kitchen until someone offers me an explanation as to what is truly going on. All right, on to the next. Chapter 1. 7 years later. Melissa's narrating. Why am I even taking this suicide-inducing class? I shake my head, pushing a wayward curl out of my face as I approach my genetics hall. Why didn't we ever have a science tutor? I hover outside the class waiting for Lacey, my stereotypically intelligent Asian, specifically Korean, best friend to arrive so that we can sit next to each other like children. Honestly, she's the reason I'm not failing miserably. Granted, I'm rather close. But that's not the point. The real reason I want to sit beside her is because when I don't fully follow the direction that the lecture is going in, which happens quite often, I'll glimpse over at her notes. I'll ask her questions and observe her interpretation, and that usually aids in decreasing my lack of understanding. My professor doesn't appear to like me very much, nor does it seem that he has a great deal of patience where my understanding for this course is concerned. I'm certain of that because every time he catches me looking at Lacey's notes or conversing with her, he'll pause and make it a point to express his disapproval with his condescending stares or his stern disciplinary comments. Or he'll do this amazing thing where he'll put me on the spot, asking me a question, knowing that I'm passing this class by the fine hairs on my chinny chin, and that the likelihood of me knowing the answer to anything he asks me is slim to none. Initially, it made me uncomfortable. Well, I'm still uncomfortable. But now I find great pleasure in challenging his intense, green-eyed, unspoken threats. As a matter of fact, while we await Lacey's notoriously late arrival, let us discuss just how intense Professor Angelo is. He leaks sex. I said it, and I meant it. The man has no right to make me feel like a porn star every time he looks at me for more than a couple seconds at a time. It certainly doesn't help that he looks like an Adonis with his dark, curly brown hair, each lock moving in a direction of its own, his plump lips and his stupendously straight white teeth. Not that he smiles much. He has a uniquely imperfect nose, and that simple fact makes him more real to me. It's slightly bent at the bridge, which I'm sure is evidence of a recent, poorly healed fracture. Knowing the little that I do know about him, he probably refused to give the poor nose the appropriate amount of medical attention for it to heal correctly. Moving forward, he towers over my 5'7" frame at approximately 6 feet 4 inches. His voice, my God, his deep, raspy bedroom voice has each and every female in here sitting on the edge of her seat, praying for more recognition from him. Any recognition from him. He doesn't particularly give any indication that he is aware of his Hollywood looks. However, let's say that he is aware. Let's say he knows exactly what he does to women. It wouldn't make a difference, because he is still one of the world's finest assholes. I shake my head and purse my lips at his now receding back, glimpsing into the classroom. Hey, hey, Lacey has finally graced me with her presence. I glance down at my wrist, peering at a watch that isn't actually on my wrist. I don't own watches. What's this? You're on time? I finally glance at the time on my phone. She smirks. Lacey, in all her Asianness, has a swag that emanates from her pores. She's gay and she owns that part of herself rather proudly, might I add, but only to the public eye. However, never in front of her family. They're all rather old school, so it is highly likely that they won't stand for her identification of sexuality. I always tell her that she can't live like this forever, hiding who she is from her family. She doesn't like to discuss it for too long, and so we don't. She has long dark hair with blonde tips and a lean physique. And her best features, I always tell her, are her hazel eyes and her lips. They are a lot more plush than the rest of her family's. I always joke with her and tell her that her mom must have had her fair share of friends in her day. She looks nothing like her father. Shrugging now, she starts, I'm not sure that I'm interested in another one of Professor Angelo's stares of doom. I put on my best shock face. What? You mean you don't like it when he peers into the deepest, darkest depths of your soul? She rolls her eyes. All right, Shakespeare. We stroll into the room of doom together. Angelo slides his black-rimmed glasses off his face in a casual manner and simply says, "Good morning, Miss Santino." That would be me. Miss Kim, and that's Lacey. Lacey Kim. Pause. So that greeting would have been normal had he looked at Lacey when he said her name, but he didn't. Instead, he looked at me for the entire duration of time it took to greet us both. "Morning," Lacey mumbles, oblivious, unbothered. I know we've been over this already, but chills never cease to run down my spine every time he says my name. However, like I said, I have to challenge him, so I stare back. "Angelo?" "Professor," he corrects. "Professor Angelo." I snap my fingers. "Oh yeah, that's right. You are the professor." Yes, I am being sarcastic. Yes, I am enjoying it. And yes, I do this very often to the Adonis professor. Lacey chuckles. "You're pushing it." I shrug, telling her I'm not quite tired of the way he peers into my soul. He is disconcerting, yes, but somehow alluring. She chuckles, weird ass. I laugh a little too loud, stating we've known this. We take our seats and class begins with genotypes and phenotypes, and of course, Angelo asks me the first question. I fight the urge to roll my eyes. "Melissa," he starts, "if you could get us started by explaining the difference between the genotypes and the phenotypes, that would be stellar. Thank you." I glimpse at Lacey, but it appears that she too is enjoying this travesty. Shaking my head at the traitor that is my friend, I answer confidently. And what does Angelo say in response to my answer? "Wrong." of course. How? I try not to put much disappointment in my voice, but if I'm going to judge my success by the smug look on Angelo's face, I'd conclude that a failure is on my horizon. Well, he starts, for starters, you seem a bit uncertain. You've defined one as the other. Even with that being said, he continues, I asked for the difference. You merely defined them incorrectly. I straight-faced him, ass. Well, if you could just go right ahead and correct me for the benefit of a better education, that'd be stellar. Thanks, Angelo. It's awfully quiet in here, all of a sudden. Side conversations and the pointless chatter that contributed to the constant background hum of the lecture hall has now come to an end with my brazen statement. Angelo smirks ever so slightly, nodding as if admitting defeat. But I can assure you, there will be more. This is simply Angelo tipping his hypothetical hat off to me. All right, class, he continues, and the lecture begins, leaving me feeling a tad bit on the edge of my seat, like all these other attention-starved women in this God-forsaken class. That is the end of my little reading, my little excerpt reading, and I hope you guys loved it, and I hope that you're intrigued, and I hope that you go buy your own Confident Sensuality by A. Vandecruz. Thank you.